I want to talk to you today, really adding on to the first teaching I did. The very first teaching I did was stay in me. The second teaching I did was good fruit. And it was tying together John 15:1, talking about you stay in me, I stay in you, and you can't bear fruit of yourself. And then we talked about the pruning process and gathering more fruit, being pruned and being cut back that you might produce more. And so today I want to continue that thought, and we'll recap a little bit in a second, but I want to recap the thought, the fruit that remains. If you were in his own meeting, you heard Rabbi teasing me about it. The fruit that remains. Now, Rabbi already gave you the end goal of what we should be trying to obtain when he was up here with his mini sermon, and that is to be more Yeshua-like. What we should be aiming towards and leaning towards and trying to hit the mark, assessing the target, trying to hit the mark of being more like Yeshua, which means for a lot of us, we got to get some things in check. Amen? Amen. So what does remain mean? It seems like it would be simple. All of us would think that remain means to be steadfast. And it does. To be unmovable. And it does. Abiding. And it does. But this is what was very interesting when I pulled up the definition. It says to continue to exist. To remain means to continue to exist after one other similar or related people or things have ceased to exist. My. I'm going to say it again. I don't think y'all got that. Continue to exist, especially after other similar or related people or things have ceased to exist. We talk about that fire. We talk about the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. We talked about walking out your own soul salvation in fear and trembling. But when the time comes, will your fruit remain? Everything that you're striving to do, everything that you're here to do, everything that you're learning, all the teachings that Rabbi has put out is geared toward getting you prepared to hear him say, well done, my good and trustworthy servant, right? So let's go through it. We're going to start John 15:1. If you got your Bibles, turn there with me. If your neighbor's asleep, look over at your neighbor and tell him, wake up. If they snoring, leave them alone. Okay. I mean, they good. They in there good. They snoring. Well, they. All right, so we're going to do a little recap of stay in me. We're going to do a little recap of good fruit. And then we're going to continue into the fruit that remains. John 15:1. You got it? Say, I got it. That I'm going to keep you awake today. It says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Rabbi talked about it last night on the Torah portion. The I am Yahweh is the first command. Go to Exodus 20 real quick. We were there last night, Exodus 20:1. I'm going to pause while I hear the papers turning. That means I'm waiting for you. It's good to look through it, right? Exodus 20:1, it says, and Elohim spoke all these words, saying, verse 2, I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And if you heard Torah study last night, Rabbi explained that is actually the first command. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. So down in John 15:1, we just read, I am. Who is? He is. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away. Who takes it away? The Father. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes so that it bears more fruit. It says you are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Stay in me and I stay in you. And we talked about that in the stay in me teaching. Amen? But before I go a little further, it talks about pruning. It talks about pruning, and he prunes that you might bear forth more fruit. A muscle doesn't grow unless it's broken, doesn't get bigger. So you have to be broken. But unfortunately, a lot of us get lost and we quit in the pruning process. We haven't completed the process. We talk about trust the process because we need you to stay in the process so you can get to the desired end. A lot of us are afraid of the process because we get to the pruning part. Rabbi explained, I told you he was all in this message. He was explaining how we label things in his own meeting. Tests and trials and tribulation, all those things we put labels on. But just understand that you have a goal that you're trying to get to, and that's the image of Yeshua, to be like him, and you got to go through some stuff to get there. We don't need to label it to call it anything. We got to go through something to get the reward. And a lot of us quit when we're cut back. It surprises me, the people that I see in this walk or any other walk, whatever the test may be, they give up before they reach the goal. Why? Because things got too hard. Will you quit? Do you have the stamina? Do you have the endurance? Are you going to give up? Are you going to worry about what your neighbor did? Are you going to worry about what your mama did and your daddy did and make excuses why you can't get to the next level? He says, stay in me. Because in order for you to get to the next level and not quit, you have to stay connected. For all of you out there, and maybe some here, because most of you moved here if you're not visiting from out of state, a lot of people, I get calls all week, Rabbi gets calls about people that want to move here. And the underlying tone for all those people that want to get here, that want to move here, is because they want to be connected. And so many people get here. I won't say so many, but several people get here, and we've all seen it. They want to be here so bad, they get here, and then the fire comes, which could literally be correction. Bad attitudes come. Somebody didn't give me a hug. All kind of silly things, and they quit. And I believe if Abba popped your bubble, showed you Rabbi Steve, and you done watched him for years, and you got here, and then when you get here in person, you decide to throw in the towel and quit because there was a little heat, I would reevaluate if you're ready or not. Really think about it. Take inventory. Because the pruning is going to come, and the pruning is going to show who you are or who you're not. I don't have to say nothing about what I actually, what I physically see you do. All I got to do is just wait. My grandma used to say, y'all know I talk about my grandma, I love her. She said, baby, you live long enough. You just live long enough. There's some things you're going to see, some things you may not understand now, but you live long enough, and it'll all make sense. We withdraw because we get lost. We're going to talk a little more about that. We get lost and we quit. But we need to all remember, all of you, because you're going to get something going to come up in your life. If you're not going through it, you're going to go through it at some point in time. If you already went through it, you're going to go through something else. You're going to continue your process until you get to the end where the part that you're remaining is still there. And I pray that when we get to that end, the part of us that's him should be the part remaining, because that's the part he sent into your fleshly body to produce fruit. And he prunes you to produce more fruit. And the ultimate end is that that fruit would remain. But as we go through, you'll learn that remaining is not the end of the story either. So back to 15, verse 3. You are already clean because of the words which I have spoken to you. Now, this is Yeshua talking to his disciples before he's going to be taken away and beat and scourged and crucified. So these are some of Yeshua's last moments. He said, you're already clean because I've given you everything you need. Rabbi often says everything you need, the basics of this walk, learning the mechanics, he's given you all that in 600 teachings. So when myself or Rabbi Tom and even him at times come up, it's more to stir you to remembrance of what Abba has already done, what he's currently doing, or he wants to take you through to help you get to the desired end. So he says, you're already clean because of the words which I've spoken to you. Stay in me and I stay in you, as the branch is unable to bear fruit of itself unless it stays in the vine, so neither unless you stay in me. The fruit that remains need to be connected. It needs to stay connected. It needs to not be disconnected, because if it's disconnected, we'll find out what happens. You already know. Verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who stays in me and I in him, he bears much fruit, because without me you are able to do nothing. That's why you fail when you're disconnected. When you're disconnected from the source, that's why you feel like giving up, and you feel like that Yah has cursed you, and you feel like he doesn't like you no more, and you feel like all crap is all things are breaking loose in your life, and you don't understand what he's doing or where he's going, because you got so used of how he relates to you when you can't hear him, when you can't see him, when you can't smell him. Sometimes we give up and we quit because we think he's not with us. But he says, if you stay connected to me, if you connected to me, I'm in you, and you're in me. Without that, you can do nothing. The fruit that remains. If anyone does not stay in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up, and they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. Doesn't that sound familiar? That sound familiar to anybody? Oh, okay, all right. Michael said it, okay. If you stay in me and my words stay in you, you shall ask whatever you wish, and it shall be done for you. I know a lot of people like to hear that verse, and they name it and claim it and falling out and rolling and everything else. That's according to his will of you staying in him and doing what he's called you to do. That's not for you to win the lottery. That's not for the Powerball. That's for you staying in him. He's giving you strength to stay in him because there's something that he's calling you to do. And don't you go run wild because I say he's calling you to do something, because everybody out there think that they called to do this. You're called to do something. We'll figure out what that is. But everybody ain't called. He's talking to his disciples. We got the benefit of hearing what he's saying. He ain't talking to all of us. He's talking to some of us. But all of us have an important job to do wherever he places us, and that is primarily to stay in him. Verse 8, in this my Father is esteemed. What is he esteemed in? Being connected to him. He's esteemed when you trust him. He's esteemed when you love him and depend on him. He's esteemed when you obey his commands. Pretty simple, right? We make it so difficult. He said, and this is my Father esteemed, that you bear much fruit, and you shall be my taught ones. Why is he doing all this? The creator of the universe, from Genesis to Revelation, he's pouring out his heart to us with our stiff-necked, big head, little feet, selves, attitude, because he loves us. And he desires that we would all be with him. We know it's not going to happen, because half of you give up and quit. The first sign of danger, just run. I learned in the police department as well as in the military, there are three major body responses under pressure, under danger. Most of you may know it. I'm sure my military and police people know it. Flight, fight, freeze. In the face of danger, most people fight. Well, most people run first. Then if they have to fight, they'll fight. A lot of people had that dream. I know I had it as a kid. You had that dream with a monster chasing you and you can't run. You're like stuck. You're frozen. The monster not frozen. The monster going to eat you. The boogeyman coming. He going to get you. The pizza dream with the hot dog chasing you, he going to get you. You can't do nothing. You can't even scream. I think that's the bad dreams I be having, my love. My wife say I talk in my sleep. I be having dreams where I be beating people. I ain't perfect. Occasionally she say I say bad words. No, not Elder. He didn't say no. Elder said a bad word in my dream. Maybe occasionally I said a few this week by accident, on accident. They slipped out in the heat of the moment. Somebody plucked my last nerve. No, anyway. Verse 9, as the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Stay in my love. Stay in my love. What is love to the Father? Obedience. Stay obedient. Stay obedient. I don't care what it looks like. Tomorrow's not promised. The next moment's not promised. You thinking you got the rest of your life to go ahead and do whatever it is you're big enough to do because you got time to make a U-turn. What if you don't? You got time to fix it. You got time to make it right. What if you don't? You don't know. But we play around with this love thing because we think it's all ooey gooey emotional. Maybe it is when you know what real love is. You know the sacrifices it takes for real love. It means you got to give up some things, sacrifice some things, change some things in your life to understand what real love is. A lot of you husbands, I'm saying it because I'm a man, don't know what it is to submit. And so you wonder why you struggle in your marriage and your wife not listening to you. Who are you listening to? Who are you willing to listen to? Because it can come sweet with a hug, or it can come with these 4 knuckles. Verse 10, if you guard my commands, you shall stay in my love. Wait a minute. How we miss this in the church? Wait a minute. If you guard my commands, and then there's a comma. If you guard my commands, we need to put that on repeat. If you guard my commands, you shall stay in my love, even as I have guarded my Father's commands and stay in his love. Wow. These words I've spoken to you so that my joy might be in you, and that your joy might be complete. And Rabbi explains that complete there means to overflowing joy. If you stay connected, does that mean nothing going to happen to you? No, that just means in the midst of whatever's happening to you, you can still find joy. In the midst of the storm, you can still find peace. In the midst of what you're going through, you know that there's a giver and the maker. You know there's a strong tower that you can run to. You know that there is a defense in your life if you stay connected. Verse 12, this is my command that you love one another as I have loved you. What does that love mean? Is that love different from the love we have for the Father or the Father's love towards us? It says, this is my command that you love one another as I have loved you. So that means he wants us to duplicate his love to one another. So that means when your sister or your brother got an attitude and they didn't roll their eyes, they don't want to talk to you, they don't want to sit with you, they ain't got nothing to say to you. That's no reason for you to get an attitude. He said, love your brother, love your sister like I've loved you. Rabbi said in his own meeting, if you missed it, I'm giving you a tidbit if you never heard him say it before. But he said, we should be treating each other like Abba has treated us. To love, to treat, to love your neighbor as he loves your neighbor. Because maybe you're at a point in your life where you're learning how to love yourself. So we don't necessarily want you to love your neighbor that way. We want you to love your neighbor the way he loves you. And your neighbor should be doing the same thing. 13, no one has greater love than this, than one should lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. There it is again, command. And Yeshua is saying to his disciples, I've been with you for 3 years. I've instructed you. I've counseled with you. You've seen me do miracles. I've trained you. You've walked with me. You've slept with me. You've lived with me. Now it's to the point where I no longer call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I've called you friends, for all of the teachings which I heard from my Father I have made known unto you. Verse 15. Now I call you friends. Wouldn't it be awesome to be called a friend of Yeshua? I'm a friend. You ain't acting like no friend. At least not no good friend. But they say, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Verse 16. And this is where I purpose to get to. You did not choose me. So all of you that's on your high horse, get on down. You thought you did something. Be humble. Sit down. You didn't do nothing. It says, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you. A lot of people I know want to be self-appointed. They appointed themselves. They looked in the mirror and say, I'm appointed. He appointed me. Do you know these disciples, he picked every last one of them? They didn't know he was going to pick them before he picked them, before he showed up and picked them. But we just think because we got a gift that all of us are called to do the appointing and the anointing, we get our feelings hurt and get upset when somebody point out the fact that maybe you're not. Not that you're not. Maybe you're not. But it takes a process. It takes some time. It takes some training for an anointed appointed to recognize or see what you have in you that may be useful for him. To all you self-appointed people, somebody asked me not to say shut up, so I'm not going to say it, but I just said it, so. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit and that your fruit should remain. I need you to stay connected from the beginning. I need you to stay in me when trials and hard times come. Don't leave me. Stay connected to me. Keep holding on. There's a point and a purpose to the process because I need you to fulfill the next part. I need you to grow more. You can't grow more unless I cut you back. But whatever I give you, understand that that thing I gave you, that increase that I gave you shall remain. I can't get no more excited about that. I'm his friend if I stay connected. I get what my daddy has, what my big brother has, if I stay connected. I get all the rights and the privileges of staying connected if I do what he says do, if I obey his commands and do what he says do. My goal is what? We said it in the beginning, to become more like Yeshua, to become and transform into the image of Yeshua. That's what one of the goals of this ministry is to do. Turn to Deuteronomy 8:2. We're going to talk about the testing. So some of y'all hung up on testing. I don't want y'all to give up on the test. You know this is one of Rabbi's favorites. So we understand that we're getting tested because it's a part of the process, right? So Deuteronomy 8:2 says, well, let's start at verse 1. Guard to do every command which I command you today. That sounds like the beginning of John 15, talking about staying in him and getting connected. He's commanding us to do these things, that you might live. Now, that live is not just live now. Because we're all trying to live forever, right? So it's not just to live now. Look at your neighbor and say, wake up. That you might live and shall increase. All right, that's producing more. And go in and shall possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers. And you shall remember that Yahweh your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, prove you, to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not. That's why some people give up during the pruning process. Praise Yah, I've seen a lot of people come back. But there's no guarantee. I've seen people not come back. And what do I mean by come back? Come back to following his commands and loving him the way he asked us to love him. A lot of us got attitudes with our spouse. They don't love me. Well, have you ever told them how to love you? Do they know what the expectation of love is from your point of view? Have you sat down and talked to them? Wives, let me tell you something. Let me share a little secret. Say a little secret. Men are like puppies. I'm not calling us dogs. I said we like puppies. You come give us a little pat, shake our tail. We're happy. You could be a cat too, because my cat, I think he's a little old man. He only loved my wife. He'd roll on the floor when she come and show his belly and put his hands out. Yeah. But men like puppies. Good puppies. So men strive to be good puppies, okay? You tell us what to do, that's half the battle. All you got to do is tell me. All right, I'm a servant, so I'm used to taking orders, okay? Tell me. This what you want? This how you want it? This what's going to make you happy? I'm going to tear the game up. You told me what you wanted. You told me what your expectation is. I'm not going to do the bare minimum because I like to undercommit and overperform. So you just tell me what the minimum is and I'll take care of the rest. Tell me what you want. But women, you ain't telling your husband if you tell him he ain't listening or the man not listening because he's not concerned about what it is that you want. And how is the creator of the universe going to respond to us when we got an attitude because our wife ain't listening to us? She not listening to me. When the last time you listened to him? She's supposed to treat you like she would treat Yeshua and Yahweh. But you're supposed to give her the covering, the protection, the guidance, the love, the support, the nurturing that they did. They gave them life. They gave their lives. Yeshua gave his life, right? For who? For the bride. Are you doing that for your bride, men? Is it in your heart? The fruit that remains. The test is it in your heart? Let's go to Matthew 6:19. And the question I want you to think about as we read verses 19 through 21, is what are you choosing over producing? You need to ask yourself that. What are you choosing? What are you choosing over producing? Because he created you to produce. But a lot of us are choosing the wrong thing. We're choosing over producing. Some of us don't even want to produce. We're choosing to be lazy. Verse 19, chapter 6. Do not lay up for yourselves on earth where moth and rust can destroy, where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart shall be also. Some of you are choosing your job over producing. When I say producing, I'm talking about you producing those fruits in your life. You know the fruits of the Spirit? We should be producing. When Rabbi was talking about people having an attitude, a lot of you ain't making it because you got an attitude. You say, oh, Elder Billy, that's wrong saying somebody going to make it because of the attitude. No, I'm saying it so you can fix your attitude. Because if you got an attitude, because I said you ain't going to make it because of your attitude, then you got an attitude. A lot of you are choosing to produce in your job because you want this or you want that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting these things, but all of us should be looking at what does he want you to produce in your life. What are the fruits he wants you to produce in your life? Because it's not things outside of you. They're things inside of you that he put inside of you, skills and abilities that he's trying to develop, because the end is not the end. Well, what are you saying, Elder? I'm saying the end that you think is not the end. Because once you make it through all this and you got fruit that remain and that fruit makes it on the other side, then there's a whole millennium. There's work to do. He's preparing you for work. He's sending you through test and trial because there's more work to do. Don't think you're going to sit up on the cloud and play a harp like Messiah said last week. There's work to do. And if you quit now, he already sees what kind of nonsense he's going to have to deal with. Well, he won't, because you won't be there. You're going to be disconnected. You're going to be cut up. You're going to be thrown in the fire. You're going to be burned. It's going to be the end of it. The fruit that remains. Rabbi talks about this all the time, and I think a lot of us sleep on it because we don't really understand the necessity of having it. Turn to Ephesians 4. Ephesians 4 on page 789. That was a joke. Wake up. On page 1139 in the big book, in the big one. You got the big one, 1139. Ephesians 4. I named this bullet point, help. A lot of you are struggling because you haven't found the proper help. You're not coming to get the proper help. You're not coming to get the counsel. You hear all these people talk about counseling. Do you think we say it because we necessarily want to have to counsel? That's our flesh. That's our attitude. I'm trying to grow in that area of fruit in my life. I'm not perfect. Anybody else in here perfect? Maybe I'm not. Oh, okay. I'm just making sure. He didn't act it up. They saw you on camera. Raise your hand, too. They saw you. So what are you choosing over producing? And you're not getting the help you need. Ephesians 4, verse 11. And he himself gave some as emissaries, and some as prophets, some as evangelists, and some as shepherds and teachers for the perfecting of the set-apart ones, to the work of service, to the building up of the body of Messiah. So you got your anointed and appointed part, all of us, set apart ones to do the work of the service, to building up of the body of Messiah. Right? So you got a role. Don't think because you're not up here that you don't have a role. You have a role. My role might be up here, but my role is also cleaning, sweeping the floor, cleaning the toilets, doing whatever I need to do. Whatever needs to be done, that's part of my role. It should be part of your role too. So we all have, verse 12, for the perfecting of the set-apart ones, to the work of service, to the building up of the body of Messiah, until we all come into the unity of the belief and the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of completeness in Messiah. Somebody say amen. Amen. So he said if you follow the process, of course you got to trust it to follow it, but if you trust the process, if you follow the process, if you vet out the process and you do the process, he said that I gave you help to help you get the fruit that you need to have remaining in your life. At the end of your life, there should be something that's him. Because the ones that say, Lord, Lord, I did this and I did that, you did that for you. Now, all of them didn't know, I'm sure. They didn't realize that they had a knowing and not a relationship. But it's going to be a sad day for those that know, that knew, that have a relationship and don't make it. It says, until we come into the unity of the belief and the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of stature of the completeness of Messiah. That's our goal. He's given you everything that you need. You have no excuse. You have no excuse to quit. You have no excuse to throw in the towel. I'm not saying that you're not going to get down at times, but your joy shall be full and complete to overflowing. But you got to utilize the structure that he's given you. If you want the fruit that remains. Some of you got fruit that's been remaining for a very long time. And it stinks. It's rotten. It's black and it's molded and you got worms in it. And you got a whole bag of it. You got a bag of fruit, baby. You got a bag of fruit. And when you come into council, you're dragging that little bag with you when you come into council. You're just grabbing that, you're just dragging that little bag. And it's leaking and juice all, it just drag. Yeah, I want you to get that visual. Yeah, it's just. And we're looking at you like, what do you have in the bag? This is the fruit. It's the fruit. I produce. Okay, so did you recycle? Do you compost? It's leaking and stinking, and you dragging that. That's something you're supposed to left at the mikvah. That's supposed to be with the old man. You didn't carry it with the new man. You didn't carry the dead body. Just you carry it in the bag behind, just dragging it around everywhere you go and wonder why it's stinking. You don't want no nasty fruit. Ashley don't want no nasty fruit. Watch who you walk behind. You don't know what they're leaving behind them. You're just dragging nasty fruit because you don't want to get help to deal with it. You don't want to get counsel to come and tell you, guess what? You got some nastiness in your life. You need to get rid of it. And we're not saying it because we ain't never had no nastiness. We're saying it because we had nastiness and we know how to get rid of the nastiness. Because we've been anointed and appointed to deal with nastiness, so he gave us some nastiness to deal with in ourselves. Some of you got out of the mikvah and you dragged the dead man with you. The buried man that's supposed to stay in the water, you didn't drag them right on out. Some of you left them in there, but you're still connected with that biblical cord. You done came out the water and you walk 10 feet and then you look behind and then the old man is like, well, I thought I left him in the water. Some of you need to go back. Take him back to the water because he's following you. He chose you and he appointed you to go and bear fruit. I think from what I've seen, a lot of people are missing the point in that area because they don't believe that he actually called them, that he actually chose them. They believe that he called and chose people, but a lot of people struggle with the idea that he chose them. And the reason why they struggle with it because they can't accept them. They can't love themselves. They can't understand why somebody would love them. They don't think they deserve it, but he appointed you. He called you. He chose you where you were, knowing that from where you were to where he is, you could make it. Rabbi says it all the time. But I think we sleep on it because we don't believe it's us. We can believe it for everybody else, but we can't believe it for ourselves. We can believe for healing for other people. We can believe for deliverance for other people. We can believe for all kinds of things for other people, but we can't believe it for ourselves because we're dragging some stinky fruit. We're dragging that umbilical cord that's reminding us of where we used to be, so we think we can't go to where he is. He chose you, appointed you to go and bear fruit and that your fruit should remain. Interesting study I want to read to you guys. They're about, teenagers, don't y'all start giggling, okay? You'll find out why in a second. There are about 40 million to 1.2 billion sperm cells released every ejaculation. Yet only 2 million of these persistent swimmers actually reach the cervix. For the 2 million sperm that enter the woman's cervix, around 1 million actually make it to the uterus. I told my wife about it when Abba shared it with me, and I was like, I can't share this. I said, they're going to think I done lost my mind. I did. And so I'm sharing it. So there you go. For the 1 million sperm that reach the uterus, about 10,000 make it to the top of the uterus. A whole lot of pruning going on. I was at 1.2 billion. I'm down to 10,000. For the 10,000 sperm that make it to this point, around half of them actually go in the right direction, heading to the egg cell. So out of 10,000, 5 of them just did their own thing. They high-fiving, they partying, they doing whatever they doing, but they ain't even on the right track. But they think they're in the right place, and they are. They're in the right place, but they're going the wrong way. Oh, my gosh. Rabbi talked about it last night. I said he looked at my notes while I was out here. He was in there. He was looking at my notes. Ain't no way he know. Ain't no way he know. That's the anointing. All I told him was the title, and his brain started calculating all the 50 million ways I could possibly bring the title out. So he already had the answer. That's why he's anointed, appointed rabbi. How many people you know are in the wrong place? They're in the right place. They're going the wrong way. Rabbi talks about it. So should we be saying na-na and boo-boo as we waving goodbye? Because we going the right way? Should we be mocking and criticizing them because they're not going the way we going? Because we believe where we're going is to the goal. You got to fix your attitude. Because at some point, they may come back when he pops their bubble, and they're going to look at how nasty you treated them. They're going to look at the stink that you left behind that you didn't get rid of. And half of them going to wind up being ahead of you in this process because they caught a hold of somebody else that was treating them nice and talking to them kindly and not judging them because they're not where you are. Get yourself, check yourself before you wreck yourself. 10,000 sperm make it to this point. Around half of them actually go the right direction, heading to the egg cell. For the nearly 5,000 sperm that make it into the uteral tubal junction, around 1,000 of these reach the inside of the fallopian tube. They just now getting there. They're slow swimmers, I guess. I don't know. Ashley said they just 1,000. Finally, from 1.2 billion, we down to 1,000. For the 1,000 sperm entering the tube, only 200 actually reach the egg. 200. 1.2 billion, we down to 200. That actually made it this far. And they ain't got to the end yet. They just got this far. And in the end, the one sperm out of the group of the 200 actually penetrates and fertilizes the egg. So 1 out of 1.2 billion actually made the journey and got to the desired end. But that's not the end. I'm keeping that held till I get to the end so y'all can stay awake. That's not the end. He got the egg. It produced a child, right? Hopefully, prayerfully. But only one got in. If the creator of the universe is that awesome, that he can take you, individually you, through that process, and you were the one that got in. Don't ever doubt yourself that you're not going to make it. Because the day you stop believing that you can make it will be the day you give up. I don't want you to stop because there are things going on in your life. Ain't nobody perfect. I want you to keep pushing and pressing and trying. That's why you come every week to get a reminder. Not only that, but because he commands us to do it. To get together, remind one another, to spur to your remembrance the fact that you can make it. You're the one. Look at your neighbor, side to side. You're the one that made it. 1.2 billion didn't, but you made it. You should be happy about it. And if you're sad, you better believe it. It's probably why you're sad, because you didn't think you were chosen. He didn't choose you. He didn't anoint you. He didn't appoint you. So I'm just going to sit here and poke my lip out and have an attitude. The fruit that remains. This isn't the end, but it's the beginning. Why? Because he's doing all this because there's a point and purpose for you to make it, for you to end up with him. I don't know the number. If I take one away from 1.2 billion, and I ain't going to try to figure it out. But billions didn't make it, and you did. Don't ever doubt yourself. Don't you doubt for 1 second. Don't you doubt for 1 minute. You better take every opportunity you have to realize and recognize that he chose you, knowing you could make it. Don't take it for granted. But you'll only survive, you, that one, will only survive if you stay connected, if you stay in him, if you get through the pruning process so you can grow more fruit. And he says that fruit should remain. Whatever he's producing in your life, he said it will remain. The things that he did, not the things you're trying to do thinking that's what he wants. I get people call all week long and they want counseling saying, oh, I want to know how to be, how I can serve and do this, do that. It starts in here. I'm not concerned about what you do on the outside as much as I'm concerned about what you're developing and cultivating and doing on the inside. Now, I'm not telling you go out and act a fool. That's not what I'm saying when I say I don't care about what you do on the outside. I'm simply saying it's more about what you're doing on the inside. Are you working on that part of you? Are you working on your lust? Are you working on your addictions? Are you working on your issues? Are you working on your attitude? Are you working on jealousy? Are you working on adultery? Yes, there are people that's dealing with that nonsense. And there's no big of a nonsense than all the rest of the nonsense, and Rabbi will get into it with his sin teaching. But are you working on these things, trying to develop the fruits of the Spirit so you'll have something that remains? Because the only thing that's going to remain in your life in the end is what is good from him. Your stuff is going to be burnt up. You can clap. You should appreciate the fact that when the fire comes, it's going to burn up anything in you that's not like him. So if you, that one fruit that remains, that one out of 1.2 billion that remains out at the end of that process, whatever that piece is, that's him, that survives, if it survives, because some of you are going to just be burnt up. You ain't going to make the test. But that piece of you that's going to remain through the fire, through that test, the extra that you produced, why do you think he wants you to produce extra? Fruit, more. Because what? Oh, I thought she answered me. Somebody tell me, why does he want you to produce so much? You think it's because he knows that 1.2?
Not everything you produce is going to be.
Oh, okay, there you go. Not everything you produce is going to make it. Let's go to Galatians. Oh, here we go. Go to Galatians 5. Before we go there, let's look at Jeremiah 17. I'm sorry to take you back, but I want to cover this first. Jeremiah 17:7. This is what it should look like in the end. Not the end, because we ain't at the end. The end is not the end. Remember that. 17:7. We're going to start there. Blessed is the man who trusts in Yahweh and whose trust is Yahweh. You need to say that till it gets inside of you, because it's not as simple as it sounds. It is, but it isn't. Blessed is the man who trusts in Yahweh and who trust is Yahweh. If you just stop at the first part before the comma, blessed is the man who trusts in Yahweh. That's our effort. Blessed is the man who trusts is Yahweh. That's a whole nother level. I don't just trust in you. You are my trust. I don't just worship and praise. I am worship and praise. Because I'm staying in him. I'm staying connected. I'm producing, getting cut back, produce more, getting cut back, produce more, getting cut back, produce more. I'm just so in the rhythm of it, I don't even complain or cry. I'm just smile. I say, okay, this just must be another cutback, and I'm going to grow some more. I'm going to get cut back, and I'm going to grow some more. I'm going to get cut down, and I'm going to grow tall. I'm going to get sit back, and I'm going to go further. I'm going to get, and on and on and on. I'm about to get excited. I had to. 17:7. Blessed is the man who trusts in Yahweh and whose trust is. Our trust should be him. It says, for he shall be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its roots by the river and does not see when heat comes. Boy, you didn't made it to a whole nother level. You just hanging out. Nice, strong roots. You right by the rivers of water. That means you're getting good nutrients. You don't even know when it's hot outside because you're just chilling. It says, and his leaves shall be green, and in the year of drought he is not anxious, nor does he cease from yielding fruit. I imagine that's how it's going to look when we are transformed. Just in a look to Yeshua. When we get to the point where we know our trust is Yahweh and we don't have to trust in Yahweh because he is trust. That we can stand there boldly and proclaim and not worry about what the naysayers or the haters do or say. Because I ain't worried. I ain't worried. Let's go back to Galatians 5. I was going to have bookmarks, but I said, I'm not going to put no bookmark. I'm going to find it like y'all got to find it. And we might make it there together. So my bullet point says, what not to? What not to? Galatians 5:19. I won't remember what it was until I read it. This is what we don't want to produce, okay? We don't want to produce these things. I mentioned it a little earlier. Verse 19, chapter 5, verse 19, and the works of the flesh are. Whatever you do in your flesh, for your flesh, to satisfy your flesh, to quench the flesh, those things are getting burned up. So if that's all you have, guess what? I guess you're getting burned up too. It says, and the works of the flesh are well known. Everybody know it. Ain't no secret. We go through the list, you're going to say, ain't no secret. Everybody know that. Which are these? Adultery, whoring, uncleanness, indecency. It's dragging your little bag, little fruit bag. Indecent. Idolatry. Drugs, sorcery, hatred. See, the big ones, most people can skip around those because you can skip around it and people won't even know. But when you get to these next few, hatred. You got a nerve to sit in his house, you didn't hate somebody. These things you got to fix because all this is going to get burnt up. So you got to fix this. We'll go to what you need to have, but you need to get rid of this stuff while you're going through it. You might need to take it home, read it, put a bookmark there or something. Hatred, quarrels. Quarrels. Husbands and wives, y'all need to stop all this arguing. Somebody need to tap out. I ain't doing a whole lot of arguing. It takes two people to argue. My wife didn't train me well. I told her that. She don't argue with me. I get hot. I get bored. Well, I'll be on fire. She's all nice and sweet. She's not engaging. She will not engage. Now, she's a fighter. She just won't fight me. She'll fight her. She just disengaged. She stand back and said, baby, when you need me, I'm right here. You go ahead and do you, baby. I got you. You go ahead and do you. I'm right here. And I said, you're going to have a hug. That's it. That's the puppy dog. I have a hug now. That's how I had a fit through the house in a wreck. through a shoe, something. She know how to stay out of it. She learned that. She ain't always stayed out of it. She can give it back if she want to, but she just stayed out of it. All right. Here it is. Here it is. It's right here. Hatred, quarrels, back at verse 20. Hatred, quarrels, jealousies, fits of rage. That's what I had. That's my fit. That's what I had. That's what baby, I got you. I'm having a fit. Well, I'm having a fit. Somebody done got on my last nerve, and I only had one to start. I'm having a fit. I got to get rid of that. You got to get rid of it. You commanding cities and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. Remember I said the end is not the end. You got work to do, right? So you making it past this point for the fruit that remains is because he needs that part of you so he can rule the next part in the millennia. He needs that part of you. If you make that, he needs all of us, okay? He needs all of us to make it, but we know all of us won't. But he needs all of us to make it because that piece that's remaining in you that's of him, he needs to put it into something that John said, I don't know what it looks like, but I do know that when I get there, and I will be like he is. I'm looking for that moment. I just hope I'm not covered in eyeballs. But y'all know that, Seraphim, right? I just want to be like he is. I don't know what he's going to be. Scripture says we don't know what he's going to look like, but we shall be as he is. So whatever that he is, that's what I want to be. That's the part after what we thought the end was. Get rid of your fits. Stop having a fit, grown man having a fit. Yes, you should be ashamed of yourself, because I was, especially because you wouldn't fuss back. If she'd have fussed back, it wouldn't have been a fit. It would have been an argument. It would have been a quarrel, but I had to get rid of that too. Fits of rage, selfish ambitions. Oh, it's about me. It's about me and all the things that I have and all the things that you don't, because you haven't arrived to where I've arrived. You haven't reached this level. And so now I'm here and you're there, and carry on, carry on. It's about what I want. I don't care about what you want. It's all about what I want because I am selfish. You got to get rid of that. Selfish ambitions. You only want it because you want to be better than somebody else. You don't want it to help nobody. You want to be better than somebody. When I hear older folk, because it's usually older folk I hear about hitting the Powerball or the lottery, they really have a sincere desire to be of a help to the family, even to the congregation, to the works that Yah is doing. They really have an intent and a motive to help. They don't have selfish ambitions. Will one of y'all please hit it so we can help get this building? I'm teasing. Decisions, dissensions. Thank you, Caleb. I felt you looking this way because I'd be messing words up, making up my own. Dissensions and factions. My class and your class, and you carry on because I'm selfish and I'm conceited and I'm full of myself. And envy. If you knew what it'd take for half of the stuff that you want, you see somebody else have, you wouldn't want it. If you knew the story behind half the things you see somebody else with that they have, you would not want it. Why? Because a lot of people don't want to go through the work it takes to get it. You just want to be mad at somebody else because they got it and you don't. Envy. Ooh, you got to get rid of that. You got to be able to look at somebody that got blessed and you think they don't deserve it, and you got to rejoice with them. Because it's not about you. You got to get rid of this stuff. You think you got time? Oh, I'm going to serve. How can I serve the body? How can you serve your body? To get rid of this stuff. Because you're no use to the overall big picture of the body transforming into the image of Yeshua when you ain't got the inside right. You hiding all this. You hide it when you come to Shabbat. You hide that you envy because somebody got a new car. You ain't get one. You said you didn't work 3 jobs. Murderers. I know everybody say, I ain't murdered nobody. Yes, you did. You murdered them with your words. You murdered them with gossip. You murdered them with envying what they have because you ain't got it covered in their stuff. I'm sure many of us, especially men, would feel like the pain of a murder if somebody came and stole our spouse because of adultery. If you didn't feel like you were being murdered, you felt like you were going to murder somebody. Drunkenness. That don't mean just getting drunk. That means not being in your right mind. You need to make sure whatever is causing you not to be in your right mind, you need to go find a doctor, find out what it is, figure out what it is. If it's drinking, stop drinking. Look at this one. This is for all teenagers. Somebody read ahead. Wild parties and the like, of which I forewarn you, as I also said before, that those who practice such as these shall not inherit the reign of Elohim. That means all the stuff that they got, it got burned up, so there was nothing left. There was no fruit that was remaining after they got rid of all this stuff. Because a lot of people won't get rid of it until it gets burnt up in the fire in the end. But what should you have? 6 minutes? Where did the time go? Y'all done sped up the clock. There ain't no way I got 6 minutes left. What do you want to develop? Let's continue in verse 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is. There you go. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no Torah. You got a long list of things to work on. I don't know why you think you've arrived somewhere. You may have arrived in one area. I see a lot of areas I've arrived in, but I also see a lot of areas that I need to do work in. Because ain't none of us arrived. I don't care what anybody tell you. Ain't nobody arrived. If they did, they wouldn't be here. So that means we all got some work to do. We all got some evaluating to do. We all got some soul searching, they used to say, to do. Take an inventory of your life, seeing if you have anything that would remain. And if you don't, you can learn how to start getting this stuff. Start piling it up in your spiritual bank account. Because that's the only thing that's going to last in the end. Is those things that are good. His definition of the fruits. You got enough love? Are you happy for no reason? You got peace? Patience, kindness, goodness. Are you trustworthy? Are you gentle? Or you just go around smacking everybody? Just threatening to. I got these 4 knuckles. Kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. That's everybody in the room, including me. Both hands. That's everybody. It's self-control. Your self-control might be not spending something that you ain't had the money to buy, or yours might be an extra chocolate chip cookie when you know you on that diet. You know you shouldn't be eating that slice of bread and you on keto. Self-control. To go back to Ephesians 4:12, and we're going to end it there. This is after Galatians. I just turn a couple pages. Page 1139 in the big book. Our goal is to get back here, where we love. From the beginning in Exodus, when we talked about the commandments and understanding that He is Yahweh, we're going to do what He says, understanding He's going to take us through some trials and some tribulations, and He's going to take us through some pruning, a pruning process to see if it's in our heart, to humble us and see if it's in our heart to do His commands or not. All for the end, but not the end. We know the end is to rule and to reign with Him in the millennia, but the end of this part of it, Ephesians 4:12, 13, for the perfecting of the set-apart ones, of the work of service to a building up of the body of Messiah, till we all come into the unity of the belief and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the completeness of Messiah. The fruit that remains. When that time comes, what will you have? I tell you oftentimes during prayer time, I want to come before him with clean hands and a pure heart. Withholding nothing. What does that mean? Many of you don't even know, I say it, don't know what it means. It just sounds good, and you just, yay! But I'm always going before him very humbly. And I want to present to him the best gift I could ever give him. There's nothing I could obtain but myself. I want to give him me. Clean hands, clean heart, withholding nothing. I don't have anything to bring but myself. And when he has tried me, he shall bring me forth as pure gold. I mean, he didn't cut all the stuff, the extra off. All there is of me. And I imagine in that day and that time when that happens, when he tries us, the great try, Judgment Day. And he's trying to find out what part of us or what part of him is still in us. I just want him to find enough that I held on to something. I held on to a command. I grew some fruit. I got rid of the nasty stuff. I let the bag go. I buried the old man 1,200 times. Every time there was opportunity, I jumped in the water. I didn't even have to wait for Rabbi to give the blessing. I'm just going to jump in because there's some stuff I got to get right in my life. And I don't want to miss the moment. I don't want to miss the mark. I don't want to miss the opportunity that he gives when the refining and the pruning comes. I want to hear him say, well done, my good and trustworthy servant. I want to have some fruit remaining at the end of this journey. Amen? Amen. Come on, give him some praise.